We shall begin with our customary practice of a ceremonial lighting of the lamp, for which we would like to invite the Honourable State Minister of Finance, Mr. Iran Wickramaratne, to be joined by His Excellency the High Commissioner for Australia here in Sri Lanka, Mr. Bryce Hutchison, then to the Chairman, National Human Resources Development Council of Sri Lanka, and of the ICC, namely International Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Dinesh Veerakkody, the incumbent president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, Mr. Jagat Pereira, then to the Secretary to the Ministry, Mr. Sunil Hettiarachchi, also Director Planning, Ministry of Higher Education and Cultural Affairs, Mr. GMRD Aponso, Mr. U.J. Ratnasiri, Additional Secretary to the Ministry of National Policy and Economic Affairs, Professor Lakshman R. Vattivala, who is the Chairman of the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, Dr. Chandra Amaldenia, the Council Member of NHRDC, Dr. Harsha Aturpana, Lead Economist with the World Bank, Mr. Ranjit Panditage, who is the Chairman of DIMO, Diesel and Motor Engineering, Mr. Kanishka Veerasinghe, who is the Director General of the Employers Federation of Ceylon, and Editor, Daily FT, Mr. Nista Kasim. All are cordially invited to draw up alongside the lamp and proceed with the lighting thereof. So that part of our ceremonial concluded, and as everyone moves to their places, so we'll invite everyone to be comfortably seated now. With the national anthem of Sri Lanka, the inaugural ceremonial for this morning's engagement ceases. What follows is not ceremonial. This really is very serious. Now, on the one hand, it does speak there on the screen about budget proposals. And it is interesting that that phrase, budget proposals, engenders some sort of emotional response. On the one hand, eager anticipation, and on the other end of the scale, downright cynicism. But what is this event about? Is it about education? That's a question that we would like to place before you, and you would need to be engaged with that aspect, whether it really is about education and whether it makes a great deal of sense. But even as budget proposals usually are somewhat within the sphere of reference of things monetary, we this morning will be going in an extra monetary direction, and that's very important. We have some insights, and we would like you to have a look at that. This is taken from a publication, Human Capital Gap, Getting Governments to Invest in People. And there are some notable points that were found in that publication, such as ministries of finance typically spend more time worrying about their country's stock of debt than its stock of human capital. Here's another thought. Governments, in pursuit of economic growth, love to invest in physical capital, new roads, beautiful bridges, gleaming airports, and other infrastructure, but they are typically far less interested in investing in human capital, which is the sum total of a population's health, skills, knowledge, experience, and habits. That's a mistake, because neglecting investments in human capital can dramatically weaken a country's competitiveness in a rapidly changing world, one in which economies need ever increasing amounts of talent to sustain growth. That's not all. There's a third point. Human capital does not materialize on its own. It must be nurtured by the state. All of those remarks have a source, and that is the head of the World Bank, Dr. Jim Yong Kim. So those were his observations. Now you appreciate what this gathering is about and where the focus is. And we will have a panel discussion. And what are you going to do about it? Is that which we would like to place before you. You could be a passive observer and a forgetter, or be engaged. And that's crucial. At this point, I'll say no more, but invite Mr. Jagat Perera, who, along with ICC, NHRDC, and Daily FT, are vitally involved in this seminar or symposium. Mr. Jagat Perera is the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Sri Lanka. Please pay him heed as he speaks.
Thanks, Arun. Honorable State Minister, His Excellency the High Commissioner of Australia, distinguished invitees, panelists, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The Forum for Budget Proposals on Human Resource Development is the subject that we are going to discuss. When you look at the human resource, especially for Sri Lanka, our natural resources are limited. The biggest resource that we have is our population, our people. It is the responsibility of the institutions to ensure this population is being used, directed, equipped with right skills and competencies. So that's the task, the responsibility that every one of us we have as the citizens of this country. It's not easy, as Arun said, it's not easy. A lot of work, a lot of planning has to happen. We were talking of human resource. When you look at Singapore, they don't have any resource, but their human resource being properly organized and planned, and they are ready to take up any challenge. And Sri Lanka can do the same thing. The biggest two challenges I can see is the political will has to come in, and the public service need to align with this requirement. If these two are there, we will be able to do wonders. But unfortunately, still, we have not seen connecting these two together, coming for a common cause. So this is the right time that NHRDC has come up with a solution to talk to the government, talk to the public service, and come with a solution for the future. Now, when we look at it from 2018, it's not 2019 and 20. We should look at 2025 and see what our challenges and how we are going to align our resources to face 2025. That should be the challenge, because immediately short-term plans are important, but if you don't change our strategies for the long term, we will be out of the market. We should make sure our human resources are available and they will be able to compete with any other person outside Sri Lanka. That's a level that we should look for. And currently, the technology is going to play a major role. The human resources cannot work alone in the current environment. Presently, we are going through the fourth industrial revolution. The technology is going to take the control of everything. And if we don't change our attitudes, our skills, we will not be able to make sure that we are at the right place, and our people will not be able to face these challenges. For that, we need to ensure the leadership, the state, the public service is ready and planned and directed our people to the right place. This shift, I think everyone understands. All what is required now is to ensure that we are working towards that direction. One of the key important thing will be probably, in my opinion, the government or the political parties to get together and come up with a national policy. If not, with the change of government, with the change of leaderships, with the change of ministers, we will not be able to go with the same direction. This will change our future. So we need to make sure everyone on board and everyone is accepting these proposals, and all are working towards whatever the change of the people or the leadership. We need to go towards long-term one direction. That is the task that every one of us has. I think NHRDC will make sure that is happening. Without that, these proposals will not stand in the long term. In fact, when I meet my membership, I keep on telling the same thing about this technology. With the technological change, if we don't change our people's skills, we will not be able to sustain. The theme that I am telling them is, what you learn is not enough now. So get ready to learn, unlearn, and relearn, because the technological developments happening in the elsewhere definitely going to affect the professionals who are based in Sri Lanka, our accounting profession. So we have to make sure they are ready to take this challenge and move forward. With this, we need to understand our key risk factors, and we need to understand where the key success factors, and we should align our strategies to meet this success, and we should make sure our country, our population is up on this whole thing. This is the best base for us to start work, and if we work toward this, this country will be a better place to live, and all our population will be happy, and they will be competing or will be able to compete with the rest of the world. This is the message that we need to tell all our people, and everywhere, every forum, we need to tell this change, what is happening elsewhere, and we need to bring these changes to our people's culture, behavior, attitudes. And once we change those, we will be definitely ready to take these challenges. And I'm sure that will be the task that every one of us has it. So with that start, we'll hand over the forum to the panel and see how the plans and how we could contribute to those two plans. Thank you very much.
We're grateful for Mr. Jagat Pereira focusing on and alluding to repeatedly the word or the idea behind change. But that's not all. He also used the word challenge. So change, challenge, challenge, change. What are we going to do about that? That's what this whole enterprise might be. Now, if you did not already know, it is worthy of being informed that for the past 3 years, much has been done. For indeed, change involves, to use a crude term, nuts and bolts. There has to be the nuts and bolts, not just ideas, nuts and bolts. And those have been dealt with in a program under the National Human Resources Development Council. I think it's a lot easier to say NHRDC. Now, we're going to be inviting someone who has been vitally involved in that scheme of things with the nuts and the bolts. Watch out for and listen out for some interesting terms and how they pan out in reality, not imagination. Look out for something like pipelines toward economic success, progress, economic development. Those two are not the same. Economic development and economic success are actually slightly different. But there are pipelines. And a pipeline is only as good as it's being clear of grit. So you might be able to identify what is the grit that has or could serve as impediments. That's what we need to figure out. So with that little flavor that I have placed before you, now listen very carefully as Dr. Chandra Amuldenaya, who's been a council member with NHRDC and been involved in these past 3 years with what has now turned out to be budget proposals for human capital development. How does it all pan out? This is not about ideas, it's about reality. Dr. Chandra Amuldenaya.
To listen to this, our ideas about the education. We have termed this human capital development because when you look at an economy or an organization, there are 3 very important things that we really look at for the base level. Human capital, technology information capital, and also the organization capital. And how you really take these 3 at the baseline to deliver the value that we're looking at. You all know about it. So we have taken the human capital and defined education as the means of creating value. You can see what we have mentioned there. Education is the nexus of learning. It is also about training, vocational training, developing skills, impacting attitudes, and continuous professional development. So, what we are trying to bring out here in our proposals today is how to fund this proposition that is education to deliver our economic value in the country. We have 2 sections in this report that we have presented to you today. One is about the proposals, the ideas that we have drawn up during the last 3 years using number of steering committees who have been working as the key people, very eminent people in the education sector and in the corporate world who have developed some ideas, and we have taken those ideas and presented here. And also, in the section 2, we have brought forecasting using the historical data taken from different sources with number of different organizations contributing, and also the Human Capital Summit that we have worked on some time back. Let's see what this is. You have, first and foremost, we want to get more females working in our country. It's not a happy situation for us. You can find There are 5 strategies that they have proposed. I'm only rushing through this because only 15 minutes I have. National policy and labor law reforms, HR policy interventions, incentivizing the private sector to hire them, and also social sensitization through public debate, and then also education reform. These are not my ideas. These ideas came up as a result of experts sitting together to discuss on this. Then you find the general education, primary and secondary education, which is our Secretary, Mr. Sunil Hettiarati, responsible for. And we have in detail discussed about computer labs going into all the schools, elementary education, funding them, a lot of ideas on them, grants and loans to private sector providers. Because education is today, you can see, is not the domain of the government, though government has to play the key role. Private sector is coming in very strongly, and we have to fund them. And also teacher training. Then also sabbatical leave. They are in the university, but not in the teachers. So basically, we have to think about it. Incentive on qualifications. Allocations to National Institute of Education, which is the primary institution in Sri Lanka developing curricula. But they're dependent on grants, you see. But why should they depend on grants if the government can fund them? It's a very specific budget. Then you find the technology stream for vocational education. We started technology stream. It's now connected to higher education. We have to question, are we going in the right direction? Then again, schools to cater for students as individuals. How do we really get the best out of our people? There are different types of people. So as individuals, how can we really improve them? Then you find health and nutrition issues. Also, we are proposing, we say that private sector has to be funded. There must be a vehicle. In a voucher system, you can have that very important element where we enable a large number of people to get the choice means of their education, the learning. Now, we don't have anything like that. Today, we have banks lending to a very selected few students. But we need to make it available to everybody in the country who has a desire to learn. That's what it does here. Then we have motivate the private sector to be education provider. I'm doing a survey on all private higher education institutions. Some of you I have met, really. And this is for a policy paper for the government from the National Education Commission. Now, I have seen the complaints and the potential that we have with the private sector for higher education. Not only higher education, we have a great potential for training and skills development in the country from the private sector. Then we also have the opportunity to increase teacher stipends based on performance. The third stream is actually about the universities, degree programs. You can see what we are producing now on the right-hand side chart. And these are some very basic statistics. We have 33 higher education institutions. National universities are 15, and 18 institutes, mostly giving postgraduate degrees. We have 110,000 students distributed as what I have shown there, universities, institutes, and the Open University doing a great job. Then you find lecturers, only 5,440 distributed within those 3 areas in higher education, which is hardly enough for this country. Then new admissions for degrees, 29,000. So now you find here, this is what we are producing. 52% arts, commerce 19% in our country. Add these two, you see more than 70% of our people are coming from an area that we cannot directly get into a job and run with it. So the government is again going to create 60,000 jobs, I understand, to make them popular. I mean, is that going to help our country? So you really need to think about this. Look at this. Science, 9.6%. Engineering, 4.9%. All the engineers are taking from the Moratuwa University are going to your country, sir, Australia, right? So I'm telling Australia, please invest in Sri Lankan higher education because you are getting our people. Then we have medicine, only 3.7%. And here the doctors are going on strike again, right? So, and they say, no more Singapore doctors coming here, or Indian doctors coming here. I mean, it's very good if you have this at least about 10%, you see. It doesn't matter, we need more doctors. So, then computer science, I'm doubtful about this number because it's only 3.4%. All the universities are producing and also the institutes are producing today. So, and agriculture, 2.9%. I told recently that, you know, our engineers climb the Lotus Tower to see if the Lotus Tower is okay, right? And then also when there are mines, they get down to the bottom of the mine for, you know, harvesting. But if you tell an agriculture graduate to climb a coconut tree, they will not. They don't know. So basically, we need to change the system so that, you know, people do what they're supposed to be doing. I'm not asking agriculture graduates to climb trees, but the point is that should be one of the skills really, if you want to see what is up on the tree. Then look at paramedical studies and going up right to the top. Veterinary science is totally controlled, 73 only coming out from the universities. Why not make this 200? Who is going to lose? Country is not going to lose. So basically, this is a picture of our country's situation. We need, in higher education, we have a number of propositions here. Promote staff development, give them PhDs, send them on scholarships, spend more money on them. Bring high quality international academics to be placed in targeted Sri Lankan universities to increase research quality.